In the Songs of Conquest, four factions rise with power and strategy.
I'm Forde,
I'm David.
I'm Chris.
and we're here from Rabl just to talk a bit about the new DLC, some thoughts, critical feedback, and constructive criticism, and just overall ideas and thoughts about the DLC. And I'm gonna actually hand it over to here, Chris. I want to just hear your thoughts on like just the base units, like the spear throwers or the Huscarls or whatever they're called for the Vanir.
Okay, well, let me just start off with we're gonna go in order.
Okay, order, gotcha.
We're gonna go in the order of the codex, the unit codex. So, where do we start? So we're gonna start with the licht.
I'm sure you're pronouncing that right.
1 to 3. It's the bard of the Vanir essentially.
The music
It's
the music
the music unit. So let's just start with its stats. Max troop size 50, damage 1 to 3, max health 8, melee offense 8, defense 4, movement 4, initiative 29.
20?
This is tier 1.
Tier 1 29 movement.
Yeah.
Jesus.
No, not 29 movement. Initiative.
Oh, initiative.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood. Still, for initiative, they always go first, is what I'm hearing.
100 base gold cost. 100.
Only 100?
Yeah, only 100. So
Okay.
very, very low. And then its ability, Dance of the Vanir. So this will give all units, all friendly units, 5 melee offense range and 5 ranged offense.
Does that track with other music
It does
generators?
stack. Yeah, it does stack.
It does stack, but is that the same bonus that other music generators would have in other factions?
No, but I think this is
All of the music bonuses are different between the factions,
Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah, but aren't they
So-
usually the same number, like 5 in one stat or
No,
something?
no.
No.
So like the best one by far is the Loth one, which gives spell damage, and I think it's like 10%.
actually,
Yeah, it is
I
10%,
beg
right?
I beg to differ. I think it's I only think, well, base unit wise, yes, their stats are probably the best with their effects are good. However, I think the Bard and Arlon, it gives you 10 defense and 10 magic resistance. So it's giving you double the stats. And yes, they're more defensive than offensive, but that's a lot. Like 10 is a lot.
That is a lot, yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry, please
however,
continue. Yes.
that is upgraded. So if that's 10% unupgraded, then
I don't have the numbers in front of me. That was just my guess
Okay,
of
so-
spell damage.
we're here at Rabl.
But-
We're gonna fact check that really quick.
We'll just quickly fact check that.
So we are looking at the Oath Singers here. So it's 20%. So it is 10% base. 10% based on the cultist, then 20% on Oath Singers.
That's pretty impressive.
So those are like tied in stats, relatively. And then the Vanir, with their upgraded version, is pretty insane. 10 melee offense, 10 range offense, so it just doubles. I think Baria.
I mean, on the whole, 10 melee offense, 10 ranged offense is relatively small as a buff.
It's you shouldn't sleep on it when you're running like a unit based welder, but yeah, I'd say it's pretty. It's not super impactful just by like you would have to have multiple stacks. And then Baria is actually it does give 5 melee offense and 5 ranged offense. This is the tier 2 pipers, but it also gives 5 initiative. So, you're trading that extra 5 or 10 points worth of stats for 5 initiative.
Yeah, but
So-
that 5 initiative in Baria
Is
like,
very important.
Yeah.
How does so it sounds you can have your different strategies and stuff, but how does it compare in cost with 100 gold?
So 100 gold is actually a little more expensive for a tier 1. Baria's 80. I think it's tied with the minstrels. Minstrels is okay. Minstrels are 140 on base unit,
That is a bit expensive.
and then upgrade is 250.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Very
so
expensive singers.
very expensive musics for
So
the.
so rather on the
then,
lower end of
like,
cost then.
Rana is the Tremors, which don't even get an upgraded version, and they're fairly expensive.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Is it
then-
Tremors locked by?
It's a tier 2 unit.
But isn't the building locked by research?
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
the generator is. And then the Loth is Oath Singers and Cultists, which are also tier 2 units.
Those are tier 2 units, not
Yeah.
a tier 1 unit like
Yeah, and it's not locked by research, but like if we're just comparing singers, which is maybe not the comparison to do.
We should be tier 1 singers. It's probably middle of the road.
Yeah.
However, we shouldn't sleep on the the crazy essence generation that they produce. So it's one. Well, it's three of the each, like of the essence they generate. So one chaos, one arcane, one destruction. However, I believe with research, this number can go even higher. So let me double check that. Vanir buildings, blacksmith, and we're looking at the licks upgrade. We see that they actually don't get more essence, so they're capped actually. So honestly, out of all the units from the new update, these are probably the most fair.
Yeah.
All right.
Just looking at them,
Well, it's a good start then to start with what we think is fair and adequate and kind of makes sense.
yeah, they're not super strong, but they're not super weak. They're not the best in slot musician compared to other factions, but they're also not terrible.
They've got some decent stats. It looks like the damage it goes from 1 to 3 to 3 to 5 upgraded. They're fairly cheap. They've got a large stack size, so you're probably using these like quasi-offensively, just as cannon fodder in your fights.
Yeah,
so you're not really using the musician ability anyway.
No, it seems like they're made so that you can make a specific build for whatever that happens to be. That's a support.
Yeah, and if you look at the research for them, they get +3 damage and the ability double strike once fully upgraded, which will set you back like 30 glimmer weave. But 3 extra attack on top of that, 3 to 5 upgraded. So that's what 6 to 8.
Yeah.
So and then they have double strike. So honestly, they're
6 to 8 damage in a 50 stack, is hundreds of damage.
That's a lot of damage.
I just want to point this out because it kind of like my Fay Spirits have I'm going to preach about this. Fay Spirits have been they're just kind of terrible. They have the Fay Ragers have 8 to 12 damage, so it's slightly more damage. However, they get double strike, and disrupt essence. However, I think for a tier 1 unit that you have no investment, this is a tier 2 unit, by the way. So we're comparing tier unit to a tier 1 unit. This tier 1 unit has 50 max troop size. I have the Fay Ragers have 20 max troop size. Just be noted that these are not upgraded with research. So they are honestly comparable to Fay Ragers. I think they have more HP once they're upgraded.
Really?
I think they do.
That's crazy.
So 8 to 12, base. Okay, they have 1 less HP. So it's really not compared than a Fay Rager. And like a couple less damage, like 2 less damage. And they have double strike, and they have... The only thing they don't have access to is once you research all of the Fay Ragers, they get quick, so they get to retaliate first. However, this is like a tier 1 unit to keep in mind. And
sounds a bit overpowered. And it's the musician.
It's the musician.
And it's the musician.
So, and we're not taking like consideration of the Vanir specific research, which gives them additional damage.
Oh boy!
So if we look at,
I assume the Vanir research is going to be the same as the Fay research in Arlon, or it's going to be very similar.
It's similar, but they get better stats. They get more initiative.
Ha!
Wow. Yeah.
So on base research,
A little broken.
Low initiative on Fay Ragers has never caused anyone any issues.
Yeah, I'm getting flashbacks.
And but in the apocalypse clip. So why don't we move on to the next unit so we get a better image
Mixed
of
bunch with that one. What is this next unit, Chris?
One parting thing. Let me just say, you can compare the Licht as a musician. You can use it as a musician, but you'll also have the advantage of being able to use it as an attack or shock troop.
Just as a shock troop.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're not going to survive initial contact. And I think one more thing I'm going to rant about. They have 34 base initiative, the Licht, and the Fay Ragers, unupgraded, by the way. I'm going to go with unupgraded here.
34 is the Lichtven. It's the upgraded.
Yeah, I'm going to look at the Fay Ragers upgraded.
Yeah.
It's 25. So they're better shock troops because they just move faster. And even if we research everything, that's what you go up to 35. if they research one time initiative, they beat them no matter what. They only have to get one research. Well, you have to max your research to try and catch up. So, Fay Ragers, I have no idea why they got rid of the weight ability on them and nerfed their initiative because it just makes everything harder. Anyways, they suffer from initiative, so they're just like slightly faster and slightly less damage Fay Ragers. So very very strong unit, most fair so far because well
Yeah, it
that's what
gets
we got.
worse from here. So,
Yeah.
so what's
Oh,
the next unit?
It's gonna get worse. Really?
Next unit is something that looks relatively unassuming. However, is probably one of the strongest units in the Vanir. Is the Huscarl. It is the Spearman, the simple Spearman. Max troop size 25, 2 to 3 damage, 15 HP, 10 melee offense, 25 ranged offense, 18 defense, 3 movement, 14 initiative, and then the ranges are 4 range for the spear throw, and then the deadly range of 2. They are human, and they have 3 abilities
3 abilities.
on a tier 1 upgraded unit. So
Unupgraded
yeah.
tier 1 unit, 3 abilities.
they have probably the best. Like this is one of the best tier 1 units I've ever seen. They have shielded, so 50% range resistance. They have guard as well. Wow, guard gives friendly units within 1 hex 10 defense, and then they can throw their spear. So they have the ranged option, which is pretty good on defense in wall scenarios. If someone's sieging your city and you have, I think they have garrisons with the Huskars.
Is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, you can put them on top of that, throw like a nuke something with your spear, and then you have a perfectly capable range guy you can chaos step into their back line. And who are they? They can't reach you. And they and this is what really flips me off. They generate 2 destruction. 2 destruction.
Tier 1 unupgraded.
Tier 1 unupgraded, 2 destruction. So, what's wrong with that? Well, I would like the editor to cue my fight against Nick in our last Take the Crown series, where he one-stacked his 200 gold cost Huscarls and destruction spammed me out of existence. Now, having 2 destruction on a tier 1 unit, my god. Unupgraded. And if you like just have a unit that just, or a welder, sorry, that just has destruction, that's 4 right there with 1 unit, and then there's one with specializes in destruction, so that's 5 on like just 1 unit, 5 destruction. That's like tier 2 ice ball. And if you have more, you can definitely get up to that turn 1 fireball, like every turn. It's insane. I think what you'd only need to get tier, you need 7, but then you need like 6 stacks of these.
And then when you have a tune, and then we have multiple stacks of them, and then you can see how this gets out of hand very quickly.
Yeah, and it's kind of a little devious what they say. I'm going to read over the throw spear ability, and just kind of explain why this ability is kind of a little misleading here. So this troop can throw its spear for 1 ranged attack, and then it draws its weapon suited for melee combat. So what I initially thought was you throw the spear, right? And then you only get 1 ranged attack on this unit, and that's its gimmick. You know, you get 1 ranged attack, and then you have a sword, and now you're only melee. It actually changes the base unit stats. So the stats we read off is misleading because it no longer has 25 ranged offense. Those stats are flipped. Like, I'm going to pull up we'll put up a comparison here. But it goes from, let's look here. 10 melee offense, right? 25 ranged offense, and 18 defense. And then you pull out the spear, it goes to 25 ranged offense, 10 ranged offense.
25 melee offense.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I got it flipped there. So, sorry, it's not 25 actually. It's only 20, and its defense drops to 14.
Still a noticeable change.
Yeah, it has an increase of 10 melee offense, and it drops its defense. I mean, maybe they were thinking, oh, you're dropping 4 defense, and that makes up for the, for the range throw. I don't understand the range drop, honestly, or the defense drop. But the doubling of your melee offense is massive. Like you can basically, it's a very versatile unit. It's pretty ridiculous, and I often compare these units.
To the Barian ones?
I usually have. If you guys want to talk about other factions, there, I don't really like. I haven't played enough of the other factions.
We're focusing on the Vanir right now, so not to. I understand you have a biasism to Arlon,
Arlon, yeah.
Mr. A and Rabl.
So let me compare you. Let me read off the Footmen, the standard melee, the melee unit of of Arlon. We're gonna look at the base damage here. So max troop size 25. Okay. Max troop size for the Footmen is 20. So and they generate the 2 order. Yeah. Damage, 2 to 3, 2 to 5. So slightly higher damage range, but still the same damage floor. Next is 18 health, 15 health. So it's only a 3%, like only 3 down. Melee offense is tied. However, once they go into melee form, which the Footmen will be fighting them in melee form, they only have 10 melee offense versus their 20. So
Wow, double. Tier 1 unupgraded has
Yeah.
double
melee offense, yes.
Wow, crazy.
Defense. Surprisingly, before they throw the spear, they have more defense. It's 16 for Footmen and 18 for the Huskar. So before they throw the spear, they have better defense. When they throw their spear, they get that double melee offense. However, and they lose 4 defense. Honestly, I wouldn't even throw your spear versus the Footmen. They have shielded, right? The Footmen have shielded, so they take less damage, and you're already matched on their melee offense anyway. So it doesn't really matter. And if you don't throw your spear, you have more defense against them. Movement 3 for the Footmen and 3 for them, so they're tied. That's not uncommon. They're both foot soldiers. Not a lot of movement. 14 initiative versus 26 initiative.
Big difference.
So the Footmen go significantly faster.
Yes.
So the Footmen are significantly faster than the Huscarls.
They at least move in turn order. They're still the same speed. However, they only have shielded. I don't get this, as they get guard on a tier 1 unit, and even if you upgrade to the shielded order, you don't get.
You have to activate guard.
You have to activate it. Yeah, it's an ability.
It requires an action or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, shield. Anyways, what I'm kind of ranting about here is the fact that they're just like so much stronger. Yeah.
Right.
And the Huskar are generated from the guard towers of the Vanir, and the Footmen are also generated from guard towers. However, one is significantly better in a siege. Like the Huskar are way better in a siege. They have they have a ranged ability. They can again, you have access to Chaos Warp, so you can just Chaos Warp into the backline. Now people might compare Arlon also has access to Chaos Warp. That's true. However, usually when you're going with humans, you're usually full committing to humans. Mixed Fay and
mixed faction for
they don't really they don't really work that well.
Mixed faction for that faction. Though.
Yeah, I mean
the Fay seem very weak.
The Fay are very weak. You're going to see a lot of glaring. I'm going to point out a lot of glaring issues with the Fay in this podcast. Just because they received a bit of love from the 1.4 update. However, not enough to compare to these Vanir units.
Wait, Chris. Are you telling me that the Vanir, a Norse-based, mythology sort of faction, made by developers that are in a Norse country, made this Norse-based faction the most powerful faction in the game? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
You heard it here first, folks.
Also, I'd like to point out they have a higher max troop size. Also,
just a
higher. Well, that just lets you offset the lower base damage. Right?
Yeah, so that just offsets that. So that just doesn't matter.
It doesn't though. Because the Vanir also have really broken human research. Let me go over some of the human research and a human wielder. One of the human wielder specializations, my god, it's so good. It gives 5 HP to all human troops.
Which is better than the trinket that gives plus 3 HP, which is a legendary trinket which you have to find. Yeah. You start the game with that.
Yeah, there's a human specialized wielder in Arlon that only gives 20 defense.
That's not even comparable.
I mean, the HP is significant because even with the 20 defense, like you can make up for like that defense increase with wielder skills. But like my god, it is insane. Let's look at the human research really quick. So you get this from the blacksmith. So they have so hear me out. You have this one unit, right, with specialization 5 HP. You research their Heart of the Winter, 2,500 gold, so pretty cheap. However, 10 ancient amber, so you're going to be really hungry for that ancient amber. 3 HP, 3 HP, 4 HP, 3 damage.
What?
So you get plus. What is that? Plus 10 HP?
Plus the wielder?
Plus 3 damage as well. And plus wielder is plus 15 HP.
That's insanity. You can't kill them. They have. Are you kidding me?
So the Huskar go from what?
15 health to 30.
To 30 health. And they get an increase of 3 damage, so they go from...
Double their health, you double their damage.
Yeah.
So people who have played the Vanir probably are screaming that we haven't like mentioned this yet, but there's a reason why the Huscarl are such an amazing tier 1 unit and why the human research is so broken. And it's that the Vanir were designed to have 2 playstyles, one where you're the unupgraded human troops, and one where you upgrade them all into the Vildra tier 2 units,
monstrous
where
units.
you lose your human research, but you get the natural stat boosts of just being a tier 2 unit. Now, the Huskarl's upgrade is the Corfin, and that's the biggest difference in unit. Like, it really plays like a whole other unit. So do you want to maybe talk about the Corfin upgrade a bit?
Yeah, let's talk about those Corfin upgrades.
So,
Chris.
let's talk about the Corfin upgrades. I'm going to just say this now. The Huskar, one of the best defensive units in a siege. Now, the Corfin, probably one of the best sieging units in the game. So, we'll get into it. When you upgrade to the Corfin, you lose access to the 2 destruction generation, and you get 2 chaos instead. So, it's pretty good, especially since you're going to be trying to chaos warp and do all your shenanigans with chaos. Max troop size stays the same. Damage increase 4 to 7.
4 to 7.
Yeah, significant increase. This is a tier 1 unit, by the way.
Tier 1 unit.
Tier 1 unit. I think the upgraded Arlon Shieldmen, the Fists of Order, I think they have the same amount of damage, if I'm not mistaken.
Again, another comparison for the tier 1 with a tier 2. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting trend there.
I'm gonna fact check myself really quick. So 4 to 7, they have the same damage. Health is increased to 20.
Okay.
However, you lose access to that human specialization. Like once you upgrade with the Vanir, you lose access to humans. They're no longer humans. They are now Vanir. Melee offense 25, so 15 extra melee offense. They lose access to the throw spear ability, 15 defense, 5 movement, 26 initiative, and an increase of 100 gold from 200 to 300. But they gain the ability Leap.
The Leap ability? What's
Yeah.
this ability, Chris?
So Leap allows you to instantly leap to a targeted hex within range, assuming it is open, and you consume movement equal to the distance leaped. Now, why is that OP? You can essentially, like, when you're in a siege, you got to break down that gate, and if you can't break down that gate instantly, you're in a little bit of trouble, especially since they have ballistas. You're going to have better, like, usually the only way to really kind of get to those ballistas is magic. Like, most of the time it's magic, because you can't, they have the high ground, and they have fortification, so they're getting a range resistance, so you can't really kill them with your ranged units. There's some units in Arlon that can deal with it, like, for example, the Fay Queen. She gets access to Fay
like
Fire.
The Barian Hell Roars can take out Ballista, but then you're losing out on your AoE damage.
Yeah.
Like they're anyways. I'm sure people listening to this podcast
Understand.
Keep calling it a podcast. Is that what we're going with?
Yes.
Okay. I mean,
So
I've seen, I just to chime in here, Chris, games, I'm not going to name names, where people have had an entire army of orphans, had
yeah,
high enough initiative to, round one, jump across the entire map and kill my entire army before I get a single turn. And are these rumors true,
these
Chris?
rumors are true. So it's a little bit disgusting. So again, we're gonna go back to we'll talk about that, but we're gonna go back to the leap ability. So you can leap over walls. Like it's just like imagine you like height and like the height does not matter. It treats it the same as one hex. So like you just have access to anywhere on the field within your movement, and you can instantly teleport over there and keep moving. It doesn't end your turn. Like if you have movement still, you can still
Okay, so
move
it's not,
and you can still attack.
so it's not an action. Like
It doesn't.
it's just something you can just do.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most broken abilities in my opinion, just because it doesn't consume your turn. Most abilities have the drawback of like, for example, charge in Rana on the on their like giant toad guys. I forget their names, but they are they're the big bulky frogs.
They run to the other side of the map in a
But
straight
it
line.
consumes.
It ends the turn.
It ends the turn, so they can't attack back. The Vanir don't care.
The Vanir just don't care about
Yeah.
these pre-established rules of other factions because they're the Vanir.
Yeah, like I think, yeah, like it does not consume your action, which is insane. Now, what Forde was referencing earlier is there's some little devious thing. So the unit doesn't sound that bulky or that defensive for a tier 1 unit, or for a Vanir tier 1 unit.
For a Vanir tier, we gotta have to put that important distinction.
Yeah, since it's still a very strong tier 1 unit. There is a wielder that gives the passive ability of backstab to all of your Corfin, meaning
Backstab, you say?
yeah, backstab means when this unit attacks another unit, it cannot be retaliated.
So that's just a free attack. They poke you with their sharp knives, kill you, and you can't fight them back.
Yes, that is exactly what happens. And even grosser is if you get the legendary artifact that gives you double attacks. My God.
Oh, you just get to do it twice.
Yeah, you could jump across the map, go hit a 10 stack of legions with your 50 stack of Corfins, one shot them, not be able to get attacked back, and then attack another 10 stack.
Well, surely they must have a drawback like lower defense or something like that, right?
No,
really?
they have a bit less defense, I think, but my God, it's insane. They have the same amount of damage. This is a tier 1 unit versus a tier 2 unit.
Again,
Yeah.
I find Arlon's a very good comparison because they're a very average kind of faction. So just comparing to their tier 2 units, wow, the fact that you can even say that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I haven't even gotten to the research. They get more abilities. So
More abilities. More, you say?
they get more abilities. They get access to an additional movement, very good on their leap ability, means they can leap further.
Across the entire map, some would say.
Yeah. They also get access to the arcane essence generation, so now they're generating 3.
Because they're when you upgrade your Huscarls, your 2 destruction essence becomes 2 arcane essence.
No, it's
Yeah.
2.
To
two
chaos essence.
They get access to arcane with
Yeah.
this, and they get access to magic resistance.
Magic resistance, you mean that really powerful thing that just means spells don't do anything to you?
Yeah, the one that caps out at 80%. So you only really need to invest in one thing of shield magic resistance, or if you're lucky, find some like magic snake totems that give you 10%, and you're basically almost at the cap.
Wow, they just can't hurt you with magic either. Wow, that's crazy.
No, they
Oh,
cannot hurt
Well,
you.
surely they have some drawback, like every other unit in every other faction in the game, right, Chris?
I guess their downside is compared to their tier 1 upgrade, they're a little weaker on the defense in a siege.
A little weaker the siege for the faction that has a giant that instant destroys gates.
But I mean, they're still very strong since you can, leap onto their back line instantly because you're not
the
limited.
Vanir.
You're not limited to such concepts as walls. Uh, and honestly, like, I can't really see a downside to this unit. The only downside, I guess, you could call it that,
Because they look like birds.
is they're a little expensive on the tier 1 unit side.
How expensive for comparison? How much?
So they're 300.
That's not.
For a tier 1 unit, that's a little pricey.
That's a little pricey.
So like, let me compare some tier 1 units of other factions.
Would take a bit over 6,000 gold to get a full stack.
They're pretty pricey.
So
For a tier 2. Like, sappers are 150, so they're half the price. I think the most expensive tier 1 unit is the minstrels in that faction. They're like 240. They're 250. Like they're pretty expensive for a tier 1 unit. That's a big drawback, I'd say. They're pretty hard to stack up there, but if you keep honestly, I don't know why you would. I mean, it depends upgrading them, but honestly, if you stick with humans, they're just kind of
Just better.
they're they're the better early game unit. Like late game, yes, this is probably the unit you want. It's just probably the stronger one.
So we are running a bit short on time, so we should keep moving through the
Okay,
units.
Yeah. Swine next, right?
Swine. All right.
Oh, are those the ones that, for some reason, when they die, you just can re-recruit them, which is because they're ghosts or something like that, which feels necromancy, which feels loth something. But no. Vanir are better necromancers than the loth, is what you're saying.
We'll get into that. We'll get into all of that. So swine. We'll do a quick overview. Generates 1 destruction. This is the first tier 2 unit of the Vanir. Max troop size 20, 4 to 6 damage, 30 HP, 12 melee offense, 11 defense, 4 initiative, 4 movement, 35 initiative, 300 gold cost.
So I don't know if you have any specific thoughts on this one.
I have a
What I thought would be interesting is because it's other than the Rana Guard, it's the only other unit that has the Bull Rush ability.
yeah, I was gonna compare
And they're
them.
both tier 2 units.
Yes.
And so I think I have the stats of the Ceramnon, the upgraded boar, the upgraded swine of the Vanir.
Yeah.
And maybe we just go down the list of stats. I'll do the boar.
A simple comparison
And
of
you
2 tier
do
units.
the Rana Guard, and we can let the audience come to their own conclusion.
Let the audience come to their own conclusion. 2 tier 2
Should we go
units
with
from
the-
2 different factions.
Tier 2, yeah.
Okay, so I will read
upgraded.
off the tier 2.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start with me, I guess. 1 arcane, 1 destruction.
So they only have one, I believe, one arcane, 1 destruction. For the. Are you doing the boars? No, I have the boars pulled up. I only have the boars pulled up. I don't have the. You do the guard.
Rana.
Yeah, you confuse him because you said his own stats. Let's take this again from the top. A comparison: 2 tier 2 units from 2 different factions.
So we're gonna compare the protectors of Rana here. So 1 creation,
So 1 arcane, 1 destruction.
Already better. Okay.
max troop size 30,
Right, only 20 here.
Oh. Better.
damage 5 to 7,
6 to 8.
health 50,
40.
melee offense 12. Ooh.
16.
Ooh.
Okay, well, a little increase.
Some redemption.
Defense 31,
31. We only have 15.
Oh boy.
movement 2,
4.
Oh.
initiative 36.
37.
Ooh.
That is important.
So they are. So the boars seem to be slightly more offensive units. They still play like tanks.
It's because we
That
haven't gotten to
defense.
the abilities yet.
Right, and that's the thing is that when they die, they go back to your unit pool, and so you revive your boars.
That's their special
And
throw.
right,
No,
and
no.
so it doesn't matter that they're not as tanky because they generally just come back. And then I think you're going to talk about the research as well.
The research.
Yeah,
Let's just
so-
go over that research, Chris.
The research. Let me just pull it up. Oh my god, the research. Okay. Anyways, the
Uh-huh.
they get something called it's cost 10 ancient amber. So they get plus 10 initiative on the research, 5 HP, but they get something a new ability.
Another
was-
one.
A new ability that was released in with the DLC called Ethereal. It gives 50 ranged resistance, 50 melee resistance. So
Just tanks. Unkillable tanks.
the defense stat doesn't really matter when you resist half the damage they deal.
And it was already huge.
It's the equivalent of doubling its health. So its health goes from effectively 40 to effectively 80.
Yeah, but
80.
80 health per unit.
Wow.
Compare that with because if you add on the 5 from the research, it's 45. So it's really 90.
It's really 90 HP to everything except magic.
Yeah.
Everything except magic.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if anyone's played late game like Songs of Conquest, which is when you'd have all this stuff like, developed, aggressive offensive magic falls off for more utility based troop focused builds.
Exactly.
So this is really gonna cause a lot of headaches
How
once.
much do your units cost? Because mine cost 500.
450.
Wow. 50 gold difference. Almost nothing. Almost no difference.
Guys, they get access to guard, guys. They get 10 defense to every unit within 1 hex, guys.
But
Ethral's not that strong.
a stack of 20, that 50 gold still adds up to 1,000 gold save.
Hey, that's numbers.
So-
that's true. That's something.
It's an extra 2 units.
This unit permanently, like, we're playing fair Songs of Conquest with the guards because when this unit dies, it dies forever. And when you play with the Vanir, you're not playing fair Songs of Conquest because when they die, they're just back in the recruitment pool waiting for you to just come on, pick them up.
Really a slap to the face to any Loth players. They're better necromancers than the
They
necromancers.
literally have the best necromancy ability for the non-necromancy class. I'm kind of shocked. I'm like, it would make more sense for the scavenged bones to be resurrected when they die. I mean, any undead, like maybe even the freaking Oathbound, like surely there's like, it makes more sense for the undead faction to have the access to the eternal ability.
Yeah, like ethereal. Like what? It really feels like the Vanir are just a giant Mary Sue. I'll be honest.
But Forde, when your human troops die, they come back as risen, Forde.
Not even close. Not even a little comparable. That's only for the human ones. Not even the skeletons or like. It's just unbelievable. Not even the undead zombies come back. It's crazy. It's unfortunate.
So I think we've established the swine are just better guards.
Generally, yeah.
They're tankier. They're stronger. They're faster.
They're better.
Yeah.
They are better.
Swines take longer to get working, but once they're upgraded, like it's game over.
I
You've
feel like
got
you don't even. There's no
a
risk.
clock on the swine.
There's no risk in investing in them either, because like you just recruit them, they die.
And with,
I'll come
and with,
back when
and
they're
with some
upgraded later.
simple levels in magic resistance, or even if you can research that, or just some way of magic resistance, then it does not even affect them at all. Like
If you
they're
get
just
tier 2
unkillable.
Essence Shield, my god, they don't die.
All
They
right.
won't die.
All right, so moving on. Next unit.
Berserker.
Oh, the Berserk.
This is probably the most tilting troop I have ever seen in my goddamn life.
That feels like what we say for every single one of their troops, but yet it is not any less true.
This unit made me question the balance decisions and overall what they were smoking in the Songs of Conquest.
With all due respect to the developers, who are, I'm sure, very nice people, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Okay, I'm just gonna be very quick here. So I'm gonna read off the base 1 tier unit stats.
Tier 1 unit stats.
Chaos, 1 destruction, 1 chaos. Max troop size 15. Damage 7 to 9. 30 HP. 19 melee offense. 8 defense. 3 movement. 28 initiative. 400 gold price. Very cheap. With the access to the ability Berserker. Now, why am I tilted over this? It doesn't seem that great. It's mostly because I want Fay to work in Arlon. I really do. It's just they're so bad. I'm going to compare the... my god. I'm going to pull up the Arleon's horned ones.
Oh, the horn ones. Those are also, they have the Berserker ability, maybe, is what I'm told.
Yes, they do have the... Oh, shoot. They
Yeah,
do
so
have...
the horned ones filled a similar role of sort of tanky offensive unit. I know the Fey aren't generally tanky, but like they're the tankiest of the Fey.
Yeah, they have the
units.
most HP pool.
Yeah.
However, once they get Berserk, they go into the negative defenses, which is really funny. So this guy only produces 1 chaos.
Only 1 chaos.
Yeah.
And this
10 max troop size.
Okay.
Yeah. 13 to 16 damage, 50 HP, 23 melee offense, 12 defense, 4 movement, 38 initiative, 650 gold. So why am I really tilted about this? It's because of the tier 2. So let's just kind of can you pull up the what
Yeah, I've got the skin shifters here.
okay. So tell me, what is their damage right now?
Once they get to Skin Shifter, so the upgraded version,
Let's go with the tier 1 first.
tier 1, 7 to 9.
7 to 9. So less damage.
Yeah. They're
Uh,
across the board, tier 1, slightly lower stats.
they're shittier. So compared to the Horn ones versus the Berserkers, the Horn ones are better.
Yeah.
They cost 200 more gold, but the stats you get from that
Probably
200
worth it.
are worth it.
Yeah.
However,
Big however, I want to hear.
Queen's Guard. This is the tier 2 unit of the Berserk of the of Arleon's horned ones. So 18 to 22 damage,
Okay, 10 to 14. Much more damage.
70 HP.
60 HP, more health for Arlon.
It's like that is a significant increase there from them because I'm going from 50 to I get 20 additional HP. How much do you get?
I get 30. I double the HP.
You double my HP. 35 melee offense.
23.
So I get a bit more. 23 defense, no change.
25 defense. So I get okay, the Vanir get a whole 17 defense on this upgrade.
I actually lied there. I went from 12 to 23, so I only get 11.
Yeah, so I have the Vanir get a very big increase in defense. That's probably the biggest increase this unit gets.
Yeah. So you said 20 what?
25.
25. So when they get berserked, they go to 0. However, when Queen's Guard goes berserk, they go into the negatives.
Yeah.
So that is something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Movement 4.
3.
So they have slightly more movement. However, they have forced movement.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. 39 initiative.
33.
1,000 gold.
700. Which 300 gold, like you're losing out on some damage, and like you're have more health.
You have more initiative. I have more initiative.
You have more initiative. Like it's if it stopped there, probably a good comparison.
Now,
That's
what ability do you think I get access to? I get access to the ability Defend. Wow, the melee based unit that wants to swing in gets access to Defend. 25 defense, which is basically mitigated as soon as they go berserked. 25 spell resistance, and that's it. I get also Essence Fighter and Berserk, which is we'll get into those strengths later.
Oh, well, I mean, listen, the Skin Shifters only get the ability Challenge. It's not that good.
So, let me get this straight. Challenge. So, the downside of Berserk is once you get berserked, you get that melee defense drop. However, what's your defense at?
25.
25? You can force someone to hit you first, then triggering Berserk, meaning you don't get the negative defense when you get hit, and you hit them harder on the retaliation. So it's just like, okay, I take a swing first, and now I move your troops out of position, and I can force attacks of opportunity. I can force your ranged units to come closer. Like, it's probably the strongest ability I've ever... Like, it's a very strong ability.
Like, giving your opponent units quick, which is effectively what this is doing, wouldn't be that bad. Like, even paired with Berserk. The fact that it moves them out of position is a bit worse, considering this works on ranged units. It does not force ranged units to make a range attack unless they cannot reach you.
No, they get into range and then they attack.
Well, like if you use this on a Hell Roar, the Hell Roar has a speed of 1, and so to move 1 and then shoot.
It's getting 50% rangers damage.
And so you know, if they can't reach you, they'll still use a ranged attack. But if you've got the Arlon archers or something, they're going to run up to you and then melee you. Which makes it better. I think the thing you touched on briefly and then moved on from is that this triggers opportunity attacks. So you can get like 3 opportunity attacks off as this unit's running through
your army.
your army.
God forbid if you have more Berserker stacks, so you just like line them up and then you're like, oh, charge me, and then your Berserkers are like, this guy's trying to get our other boy. Swing, 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 and then you get to him and he's like, there's like 1 unit left, he hits you and you're like, Berserk, swing back, kill the stack. It's ridiculous. But that's not even like that's pretty bad. Like that's pretty egregious. But the thing that I'm like super tilted on is they introduced new ability. So I'm pretty sure not Arlon, but the Vanir came out with the 1.4 update, and they basically reworked the research. So a lot more units got access to abilities once upgraded. again, this is probably the most insane one I've seen. They get access to something called Controlled Berserker. Now, God, Controlled Berserker. Holy shit.
Seems counter meaning. Controlled Berserker, huh? That doesn't even
So-
sound logical.
Controlled Berserker is something. It basically doubles the effects that Berserker gives you. However, it gets rid of the negative 25 defense drop. So +2 movement, I think +4 damage when you're berserked, and no defense drop. So this unit is now, like, I'm pretty sure it has more movement and more damage once berserked than the horned one. No, it's not that. It has more damage. It's not more though, because they also still berserk. But I'm very upset that Arlon got passed over on controlled berserk on the Queen's Guard. If they got if Queen's Guard got access to controlled berserker, they would be probably Arleon's strongest unit.
It's funny because it sounds like their berserkers are better than Arleon's berserkers.
They are better.
Their chargers are better than Rana chargers, and their necromancy abilities are better than Loth abilities.
For the price you pay, you get better stats. It's 700 gold and controlled berserker on this unit, and I have to pay 1,000 gold. Now, people might be wondering, well, if they researched what ability did Arlon, it must have been a good ability for the berserkers, right? Since or for your Queen's Guard, since it was upgraded. We got access to, oh my god, we got access to shielded. That's what we
For
got.
a unit that has no shield.
For a
Yeah.
unit that has no shield.
It makes
Genius.
no sense. It makes no sense. We get it's just, oh my god. And they reworked how much, the nice thing is now it's 5 Ancient Amber, 5 Glimmerweave to upgrade instead of just 10 Glimmerweave, which is it's nice in some cases, but kind of bad since now you can't hard focus one. It used to be just 10 Glimmerweave and you could just spam that out with research and mines, but now it's you need both. But I don't get it. Why shielded when you have controlled berserker? You'd think the guards of the queen would be able to move on past their raging days because they have duty now to protect the queen or something. But no, they get shielded, ranged resistance. That's not what makes they're not dying to ranged damage.
If they are, you have bigger issues.
Yeah, if they're dying to if
you're doing something wrong.
you have 39 initiative and 4 movement and access to chaos, you should not be worrying about
Reaching
range.
the back line.
You should not be concerned about the freaking ranged attacks coming at you. You've already done something wrong if you're dying like that. You need to this shock troop needs to get in there and smack.
Emphasis on the shock. Move fast, hit hard. If you're getting shot, you're doing something wrong.
In my honest opinion, if you wanted this unit to be strong, like the Queen's Guard, you would rework Shielded to be controlled berserk. Give them actually a fighting chance against other berserker classes like this. Get rid of get rid of protect. No one's popping. No shock troop wants to walk up right one hex before you reach the enemy and well, better shield here.
Well, I got a little short. I ran out of breath. Better put up the shield.
Better defend, I guess. Gotta get that 25 defense so when I get hit, I don't get fucked by berserker. It just makes no sense. And maybe drop their gold price, maybe not to 700, but maybe 850, 900. But they should not be 1,000 gold if they're getting fucked like this. Make them 1,000 gold. Make them either 1,000 gold. Start with order and chaos, and freaking make them research all their abilities, or maybe just have guard. But God, if they had control berserk, I think they would just. Queen's Guard would just fling in the meta. They would just fling up in the meta. They are, or not even the meta, but in strength.
They would just rank up in their tier rank.
Yeah.
They'd just be better.
They would be better units. It would make Fay less shit. Is what I'm getting at.
Which they are. They're very much shit. So that's
Right.
good to
Fay
hear.
is pretty terrible.
We've got about 15 minutes left.
How many
here.
more units do you have to
So
get through?
Oh,
can
God.
we quick
How many
fire
more
a few
units?
units? I want to touch on the Baka Horses and Hungers briefly and compare them to Baria Brutes, but like for the rest of them, I know they all are terrible, and you have rants for all of them, but like, can we just touch on like the
do you want to
annoying
cover
parts?
trolls and Baka Horses then?
Oh, troll!
Yes. I mean, okay. I think trolls are fairly straightforward. Their stats are like decent. They're not insanely good and they're kind of pricey, but the versatility is the insane part.
And honestly, you might not think this. When you look, like you see generate essence, it's 1 destruction, and then like they upgrade. I think they get 2 destruction. If you research, you can get like chaos and arcane on them. That's 4. That's a lot
That's
of.
4.
That's a lot.
For a
It's a tier 2.
a unit that's not like magic, but yet it is amazingly ranged offensive. You know what I mean? Like compared to the necromancers in Loth, they're made for essence generation, and they don't even make 4. Like,
They're probably the only unit that I would say are a little pricey for the stats you're getting. Like they're pretty bulky, but like 800 gold.
They are very expensive, but Switch is such a good thing to have.
I don't actually have the numbers on how much
So
they get increased.
they also
on the
slap
number
people
of
with
efforts.
fishes.
So
Don't forget about that.
The wiki just puts their melee and range as 28 for the offense, but the wiki's not the most reliable of sources.
I find you get more information.
Yeah, what you have pulled up is better. But anyways, they're not like terrible.
No.
But they're still good.
They're tier 2 unit. They're strong.
Yeah. So Baka Horses and Hungers. Now these are the magic resist unit of the Vanir because once they're Hungers, they have an innate 50%. And they're fairly tanky, so the Brutes are a great comparison, I think. Now, we need to remember that Hungers have the Hunger ability that lets you siphon off health and heal your unit, which in certain cases is very good.
If you don't want to get retaliated on.
Especially that.
Vampiric in a way.
But maybe we can compare the base stats of the upgraded Brutes to the Hungers.
Okay, I'll pull up the Brutes.
Yeah, I have the Hungers here.
Alright, so upgraded Brutes.
Stack size 10, which is the same for Brutes.
1 destruction.
I need to check that. 1 Chaos, 1 Arcane.
20 to 24 damage.
2025.
Okay, so higher skill, higher damage cap.
Tiny, but comparable. 60 health.
90 health.
90?
For
21 offense.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
20, what'd you say?
21 melee.
34.
15 defense.
25.
5 movement.
4.
And then 23 initiative.
23. I got 32. 12,000 gold.
24 initiative. Yeah, 23 initiative. These are 13,000 gold. Now they get Charger, which is going to give you a lot more damage. You are actually a lot weaker in melee combat than I thought they would be.
Compared to the frontline, like Brutes are probably Scarred Brutes are probably the strongest frontline fighters.
Probably.
Especially since they have frontline fighters. So all that damage you build up is just, you lose 10 of it.
Yeah.
And you lose defense once you get into the range.
So Hunger's like just a good unit, not a broken unit, I think.
Yeah.
I mean Brutes are kind of broken, but
I mean the only thing is they get access to Frightful, I think. So they don't get retaliated on.
That's true. Once you've upgraded your Hungers, they do but their damage is not so crazy that it's terrible to have on them.
No, they're definitely strong, but they're not. They're like it depends on like what you want your like melee frontline units to be doing.
Yeah.
You need to get into the back. You probably want like if you're trying to charge your enemy down, you probably want Baka Horses. But if you're going for a more ranged approach, it's probably trolls.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be winning against like these guys. However,
there comes abilities.
Let's compare with Arlon's charger class. The Knights, the Humble Knights.
Very good charger class. Someone hope it would be. But,
so I generate 2 order, 1 chaos, 20 to 25 damage.
Same damage.
75 HP.
More HP.
37 melee offense.
More offense.
33 defense.
More defense.
5 movement.
Same movement.
16 initiative.
23. So
So
slightly
pretty,
more.
yeah.
Oh, don't forget.
What's the cost of the Baka Horses?
1,300.
So I think they're actually kind of better for your value because it costs
Yeah,
1,000
they don't
gold and
cost
one
the-
celestial.
Yeah.
So if you don't have access to celestial and you only have one marketplace, that's 1,000 gold. So it's 2,000 gold.
Well, do
Yeah.
remember, for the knights, each square that they move, they get an increase in
That's
Yeah,
something.
but
they
that's
both have
charger.
charger.
Oh,
Yeah.
they both have that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then
Yeah.
never mind then.
So Hunger's like a middle road between brutes and knights.
Yeah.
But
They don't
that
get access to
puts them in actually a decent spot balance-wise. They're unique, they're good, but they're not as broken as the previous units. So let's move on. Is the next one the Crone?
Yes.
Oh, the greatest melee
Oh.
range unit in the game.
Yeah, exactly what
Right.
Forde
So
said.
let's do 2 minutes on the Crone. What's
So
Speed run quickly.
first thing we're gonna say about the Crone is they made the best ranged unit a melee unit.
Yep, they teleport and they melee stab people.
So let's just compare the tier 2 unit. 1 chaos, 1 arcane, 1 destruction, 10 max troop size, 15 to 20 damage. This is on a ranged unit. I'm gonna call it ranged, even though it's melee. 40 HP, 35 melee offense, 20 defense, 3 movement, 24 initiative, 600 gold. 600 gold. One glimmer eve. That's it.
which is if you're taking the marketplace into account, let's say 1,600 gold.
Yeah, but still, it's like that's nothing. And okay, they get improved Raven form, so you don't get to retaliate back.
You know, they seem
You
very
don't get
similar
to
to
hit
the
them.
Corphans. They seem to make great friends, really.
Yeah, but you don't have to upgrade. This is just you. This is not even like a
No
wielder
research.
you need. No, it's not even a wielder you need. They don't get
Oh,
retaliated.
really? Don't
Yeah.
even need a wielder for that. They just don't. Okay, cool.
No one retaliates against them. And they can unlock charge essence through research. But honestly, if you're ever using Crones to generate essence, you are not using Crones properly.
Not using them right.
The charge essence is a dead ability on this unit. All you have to know is this thing hits anything. Your backline isn't safe. You're always in deadly range. Just think about it like that. These are like the units you see and you target first.
Yep, they need to be killed first.
Yeah. And I think they go up to even further in generation essence type if you research it. I think it's an
the
additional
research.
destruction or
Yeah.
maybe
Mhm.
arcane, I'm not too sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Moving on. Sorry we're going so quick. Chieftains. Not too bad, honestly. I mean, you get access to them very early.
I honestly have never. I've played against a chieftain once, where Nick got one in our PvP game from like somewhere, and then never a Yormir. So
They don't seem that good. I understand they have a special ability where they can just one-shot walls, but like, how often are you doing that?
they're
I'd say-
big. They've got a few abilities on them. I don't think they're broken.
I think they're very strong in the case that you're doing a human rush. If you're doing a Vanir human rush early to mid game is your strongest points, and you get access to these as soon as you hit tier 3, and they only cost 700 gold. And honestly, I'd kind of compare them because they through research you can get frontline fighter, so it's nothing to like you have frontline fighter and sweeping attacks.
Sweeping, and also don't have a leadership thing where they can buff people around them.
Yes, they do have inspired by default.
Oh, by default, okay.
Listen, man, I don't make the rules. And they also have strengthen. So they're kind of a mix of the Arlon's Knights, since Knights got inspiring in the 1.4 update with research, except these guys don't need to research it.
Of course not.
And they're a mix of... They're not comparable in damage, but they do have similar stats to Legions from Baria. Not from Baria, from Loth. Yeah. And they also kind of have a bit... Like, they're the big, bulky units that can't stack that high, sure, but they're also kind of like frontline fighters with scarred brutes.
Yeah, I mean, if your tier 3 is just a comparison to legions, like legions, I'm sorry, Forde, are not that good.
You will be punished, but that's a later issue.
And max troop size 5 means that you're pretty vulnerable to like justice, anyways. So
yeah, but like they're so cheap.
They are very cheap.
Well, that also makes them comparable with legions or other whatnot.
Yeah,
cannons.
The biggest thing about chieftains is that they're only 700 gold. Like that is very cheap.
That's very
it's clearly
cheap for such a
an
siege
early
unit,
game human rush.
Yeah. And like there's so much human synergy. You can get their HP up with like the specialization human and the research up to 20. So that's 80.
Tanky. Yeah,
and the research on them is pretty good.
They are probably like I think the only thing holding them back is like if you're going for a human research spam, you need to get tier 5 capital so you can get access to both research buildings and increase this max troop size.
Yeah,
I think that's the only thing holding it back.
But then you also need another at least tier 3 settlement, so it gets clunky.
It gets
as you
clunky.
go.
Well, no, because you're probably never going to. Oh yeah, because you need the blacksmith. Yeah. It's hard. Yeah, I'd say.
There are maps where it works.
Yeah, it's just tough.
just not always the thing. But
Situational at best.
yeah, it's a situational thing. But if their worst unit is their tier 3 unit, and we're saying it's good early game, and you just need to get another tier 3 settlement to carry it into late game. Then
That's not bad.
it's not a bad place for it to be, considering how many other really good units there are in Vanir.
Do you mean every other single one?
I think it's not its worst unit. I think the Licht is like maybe on the weaker end,
That's fair.
and then these guys are like.
We also need to remember we were comparing the Lick to a tier 2 unit and saying it was dealing more damage
Okay, in terms of
than
tier,
the Fay Ragers.
in terms of tier 3, in terms of tier 3 units, it's probably the weakest unupgraded.
Well, there's something for it. Was that the last unit?
There is the Jormir, which is kind of a different unit in itself.
Oh, really? You don't think?
Touch about what changes.
I think we do the last unit, and then we just end up. We will just talk about what we think went wrong and what could be done to improve the situation.
So,
that's a finish.
From 12 to 16 damage, your damage now 30 to 50.
That's a lot of damage.
Your HP.
And sweeping still, right?
You still have sweeping.
Uh-huh.
Oh no, I think it loses sweeping.
Does it lose sweeping?
Yeah, it loses sweeping for slam. So now instead of sweeping, it has additional range it can hit back. It's actually better than sweeping.
Oh, wow. So I like how you start with no, it loses it. It gets something better.
It gets something better. HP it goes from 60 to 130, so you're more than double.
130?
Yeah, melee offense is increased by 40 to 65. Defense is increased to 45 from 22.
Jesus.
Movement is increased by 2 from 3 to 5. Initiative is increased by 2 from 30 to 32. However, this is probably the most expensive tier 3 unit out of all the factions. Maybe a bit cheaper. I'm not too sure the price on dragons, Elder Dragons. But it's 8. If we can get a check on that.
I think,
their cost is 18,000 gold, 2 ancient amber. They get access to the ability Slam, which is basically an AoE slam attack.
Yeah.
And Intimidate. And then also through Research Frontline Fighter.
Yeah, I can understand that unit was supposed to be the really powerful unit because the main unit, the premier unit for the faction,
is so weak.
And you know what? With what it is right now, that's fine. I think it's fine. If every other unit wasn't already overpowered, that it makes this one look comparable. Like,
what do we have on?
Rana Dragons easily double the price.
Okay. So wait, what's Rana Dragons cost?
So okay. The issue with Dragons and Elder Dragons is you buy your dragon for 2,500 and 2 ancient amber
for a dragon.
For a dragon, but then you have to manually upgrade it to an Elder Dragon.
How much does that cost?
And so, if you're getting an Elder Dragon, the wiki puts it at 3,000 gold and 4 ancient amber. I think that means it's adding an additional 500 gold and 2 ancient amber per dragon. But that means the base gold cost is like slightly under double, but then it's 4 times the ancient amber, which is a ridiculous cost to pay for a tier 3 unit that can get justiced.
I'm pretty sure
Justice.
My boys at Rana were dealt dirty with their research for special resource being silk. The thing they actually require, and then the Vanir are out here just everything costs ancient amber, and they just have access to ancient amber research.
Huh? Weird.
Yeah, kind of crazy. However, they actually need a lot of resources for everything, but the majority of their stuff is ancient amber. Unfortunately, I feel like this is all the time we have for this time.
So let's briefly do a recap, like what we think the Vanir lands and changes.
What's wrong with it? What you would improve on it? Critical feedback. Yeah. Your feelings.
Yeah.
We'll end with Chris. We'll start with David.
Okay, whatever.
What was I supposed to say?
So, the Vanir are sort of too well balanced. You've got a really good early game in humans. You've got a pretty good late game in your upgraded like swine and crones, and Corfins that can be really hard to deal with. And so the only real drawback is on occasion how many special resources you need and how much wood you need. You can get very quickly starved for like wood of all things, I found in the limited playthroughs of Vanir I've done. I think that a lot of the issues can be fixed by tweaking what their research gives them, because in many cases things get broken by added effects that they get down the line, and some of the like duplicative bonuses they get, like Huscarl's getting shielded and guard and spear throw and magic resist with upgrades becomes a bit too much. And if you take out some like guard doesn't need to be there, it would like nerf it in a way that doesn't feel bad to play. Where you didn't notice what it was doing before, and you know you'll be weaker, but it won't feel bad to play. You're not losing any core mechanic of your units. So that's what I would do.
Interesting. I for one like all the abilities they have. I'm the person that people sometimes say less is more. I believe more is more, and I love all the abilities on them. And I think instead of lowering, raise everyone else up to the same level. So I think if you want to do something to patch it, I would say give all these abilities, give more abilities, more research, more interesting things to the other 4 factions, and raise them up to be on the same level as the Vanir to make it more interesting. Just for balancing wise. I mean, currently they do every other faction's thing better than their own faction. They have for the Baria, the kind of rangy with guns and artillery, and their Corfins that are the best range they can, and their melee. You have the ethereal hogs, which are better tanks than the Rana, and better resurrectors than the Law, and then you have like
Berserkers who are better horde ones.
and the Berserkers who are just better horns. They're very Mary Sue-esque, better than everyone else in every way, shape, or form, self-insert type of thing. And I think they need some work, and I love what you're doing with them, but they need a little work on them, and that would be my 2 cents on it. I mean, what do you think, Chris?
I think this faction is it is the strongest faction.
It's food multiplayer. Mention that.
It's probably comparable to like I think it's the strongest faction like without any upgrades. Like other factions can get strong, but like these they are not held back by research, by wielder level, by basically building slots too. Because like their tier 1 units, specifically the Huskar, are very strong for a tier 1, and their tier 2 units, at least half of them, are like just significantly better and more cost effective than any other faction. Like the Swine, the Berserker are all from the Stonehouse. That's probably just one of the best buildings you can build. Like you can bring back your Swines once you upgrade them. Your Berserkers are basically just super strong shock troops that can force movement and can do some really crazy shenanigans. The only thing that's kind of like the trolls and the Baka Horses are strong, don't get me wrong, but the only thing that's kind of holding them back is the price. They're very expensive for tier 2 units. I mean, they're not really like there's other tier units that are more expensive, but like they can get pricey pretty quick. What is the Crone? What is it?
Is the Crone?
The best ranged unit in the game that's a melee unit, and Chieftains and like the early human strats are insane. It's just this unit needs a lot of reworking. I think it'd be better if some of these abilities were locked behind research. I think that would balance it more.
All right then. Well, thank you for joining us on our first episode of Rabl Babl, where we kind of just talk about the new DLC and kind of what went wrong and just some critiques on it. Thank you so much for joining us. You all take care. Bye-bye now.
Just know in the comments what changes you would make to the Vanir.
Yes, all many viewers, not fans, in the comments below. Please comment. All right, we'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.